Our sex lives have gone stale. I am a 32-year-old woman, and my boyfriend is 37. We've been together for more than 2 years, a period that has been filled with laughter, mutual support, and a deep understanding of one another. Our relationship started like many do, exciting, electric, and full of passion. From the very first time we met, I felt a connection, as if we had known each other in another life. It was the kind of bond that left me thinking, this is it. This is what I've been searching for. In those early days, everything felt effortless. We could talk for hours, losing track of time, sharing our thoughts, dreams, and little quirks that made us feel seen and understood. He was, and still is, someone who brings light into my life, a person who can make me laugh even on my worst days, who offers me comfort when the weight of the world feels too much to bear. But somewhere along the way, something changed. It wasn't sudden, nor was it dramatic. It crept in slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. The excitement we once had began to wane, and I found myself pulling away from the very man who had brought me so much joy. The kisses that used to linger, the touches that sent shivers down my spine, and the passion that once consumed us all began to feel routine. Familiar, yes, but lacking that spark that once made my heart race. I still like him, I love him, even. He's a good man, a kind soul with a thoughtful heart. He takes care of himself, stays fit, and makes an effort to show me he cares in the little ways that matter. And yet, despite all of this, I can't ignore the growing void within me. The desire I once felt so strongly has dulled. It's as though the fire that once burned so brightly has now dwindled to embers, struggling to stay alight. It's not that I don't find him attractive anymore, I do. Objectively, he's as handsome as he was when we first met. I still notice the way his muscles move beneath his shirt when he stretches, or the way his eyes crinkle at the corners when he smiles. But noticing these things and feeling a visceral, intimate pull toward him are two very different experiences. And it's the latter that seems to be missing. I've found myself wondering, why? Why has this shift occurred? Is it something I've done or failed to do? Is it him? Is it us? The questions swirl in my mind, relentless and exhausting. I've always prided myself on being self-aware, on recognizing my emotions and understanding where they stem from. But this has left me baffled. For a while, I tried to ignore it, brushing it off as a phase. Relationships change over time, I told myself. The honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. But the more I tried to push it aside, the more it gnawed at me, demanding attention. The guilt began to creep in. How could I not want to be close to the man I loved? Was there something wrong with me? Had I become cold, distant, incapable of maintaining the warmth that once defined our bond? The intimacy issue became the unspoken tension between us, a silent, invisible wall that neither of us acknowledged outright but both felt deeply. He never pressured me or made me feel inadequate, and for that, I'm grateful. He has always been patient, understanding, and respectful of my boundaries. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was letting him down, that I was failing to meet an unspoken expectation. And so, one evening, as we sat together on the couch, the weight of it all became too much to bear. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and vulnerability. His eyes met mine, concerned but attentive. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "I've been struggling with us, with intimacy." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I watched as his expression shifted: surprise, confusion, and then a quiet understanding. "I've noticed," he admitted softly. "But I didn't want to push you." That was the thing about him, he never pushed. He always gave me space to process my emotions, never demanding explanations or solutions before I was ready to give them. And yet, in that moment, I wished he had pushed. I wished he had confronted me sooner, forcing us to address the issue head-on rather than letting it fester in the shadows. I don't know why I feel this way, I confessed, my voice breaking. I love you. I really do. But something's missing. And I don't know how to fix it. His hand reached for mine, squeezing it gently. We'll figure it out together, he said, his tone steady and reassuring. We've built something good, something worth fighting for. I'm not giving up on us. His words should have comforted me. They should have filled me with hope. But instead, they stirred a new wave of guilt. He deserved better, someone who could meet him with the same unwavering commitment and passion. Someone who wouldn't leave him questioning his own worth. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. His willingness to accept the situation, to work through it together, only made me feel more conflicted. On one hand, I was grateful for his patience and understanding. On the other, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I was holding him back from a more fulfilling relationship. I've read about how intimacy naturally wanes in long-term relationships, how couples often have to work to reignite the spark. I've heard the stories of couples who found themselves in similar ruts and managed to rediscover their passion through therapy, date nights, or trying new things together. And so, I clung to the hope that we, too, could find our way back to each other in that sense. We tried. We really did. We planned romantic getaways, surprised each other with thoughtful gestures, and even tried some of those couples card games designed to spark intimacy. And while those efforts brought us closer in some ways, reminding us of the joy and love we shared, they didn't reignite the physical passion that had once been so natural between us. The more we tried, the more I felt the pressure mounting. Each failed attempt left me feeling more inadequate, more broken. I started to dread the very activities that were supposed to bring us closer, fearing that they would only highlight the growing distance between us. And through it all, he remained patient. He never expressed frustration or disappointment. If anything, he seemed more determined to prove that our relationship was about more than just physical intimacy, that the love we shared was deeper, more meaningful. But was that enough? Could we truly sustain a relationship without that aspect? Could love alone carry us through the years ahead, or would the absence of intimacy eventually erode the foundation we had built? The questions haunted me, keeping me awake at night as I lay next to him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. I wanted so desperately to feel that spark again, to want him in the way I once had. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't force it. And that realization left me feeling more lost than ever. For a while, I carried the guilt like a heavy stone in my chest, pressing down on me with each passing day. Every time I caught him glancing at me with that familiar warmth in his eyes, I felt the ache of what I couldn't give him anymore. Every time he reached for my hand or pulled me in for a kiss, I was reminded of the distance growing between us, a chasm that neither of us seemed to know how to bridge. I knew I couldn't keep it bottled up inside forever. One evening, after dinner, I sat him down at the kitchen table, the soft glow of the overhead light casting shadows on the walls. My heart pounded as I searched for the right words, terrified of hurting him but knowing I owed him honesty. I need to talk to you about something, I began, my voice trembling. He looked up from his glass of water, his brow furrowing in concern. What's wrong? I took a deep breath, my hands shaking slightly as I fidgeted with the hem of my sweater. I've been struggling with intimacy. I feel like something's changed, and I don't know how to fix it. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears and doubts. His expression softened, and he reached across the table to take my hand. I've noticed, he admitted quietly. But I didn't want to push you. I thought maybe you were going through something, and I didn't want to make it worse. I squeezed his hand, grateful for his patience but feeling the weight of my own guilt intensify. It's not just a phase. I've been feeling this way for a while. And I hate it. I hate that I can't give you what you deserve. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes searching mine. And what do you think I deserve? More, I whispered, my voice cracking. You deserve more intimacy, more passion. You deserve someone who can meet you in that space, someone who doesn't hold back. I feel like I'm failing you." He shook his head slowly, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "You're not failing me. Relationships aren't just about sex. They're about love, trust, and partnership. And we have all of that. But do we?" I asked, my voice rising with frustration. "It's been so long since we've had that spark. I know you feel it too. We can't just pretend everything is fine when it's not." He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "I won't lie, I do miss that part of our relationship. But I'm not willing to throw everything away because of it. What we have is more than just physical. It's real. It's solid." His words should have comforted me, but they only deepened my inner turmoil. How could he be so willing to settle for less? Didn't he miss the passion, the desire, the connection that used to burn so brightly between us? Or was he simply resigned to the fact that long-term relationships inevitably lose their spark? "I thought we could fix it," I admitted. "I thought if we tried hard enough, we could reignite that flame. But nothing seems to work." He nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about that too. We've done the trips, the surprises, the little romantic gestures. And while I love those moments, I know they haven't brought back the intimacy we're missing." I bit my lip, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. "I don't know what else to do. We've tried everything I can think of. We even tried those couples card games, you know, the ones with the prompts to do intimate things. And they were fun, but they didn't change anything for me." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Yet, I remember those. I could tell you weren't really into it. You were trying for my sake, and I appreciate that, but I don't want you to feel forced into anything." I shook my head, wiping away a stray tear. "It's not that I don't want you. I do. I miss the way things used to be. I miss feeling excited, feeling that pull toward you. But it's like something's blocking it. I can't explain it." "We've also been to couples counseling," he pointed out gently. "And while it helped us communicate better, it didn't solve the underlying issue." I nodded in agreement. The counseling sessions had been insightful in some ways, helping us to express our feelings and understand each other's perspectives. But when it came to rekindling our physical connection, they hadn't made much of a difference. We left each session with a renewed sense of hope, only to fall back into the same routine once we got home. It wasn't that we weren't trying. We were. We both wanted to save our relationship, to bring back the intimacy that had once been so natural. But no matter how many tools or strategies we employed, the result was always the same: stagnation. "We hug. We kiss," I said softly, breaking the silence. "But that's about it. It feels like we're more like roommates than lovers." He flinched at my words, and I immediately regretted them. "I don't want to be just your roommate," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want to be your partner. Your equal. The person you turn to when you need comfort, or excitement, or adventure. You are that person," I assured him. "But it's not enough. I want to give you more. I want to feel that spark again, to crave your touch. But I don't know how to get there." We sat in silence for a long time, both lost in our thoughts. The weight of our shared struggle hung between us, a tangible presence that neither of us knew how to banish. After what felt like an eternity, he spoke again. "Maybe we need to stop trying so hard. Maybe the more we focus on fixing it, the more pressure we're putting on ourselves. And that pressure is what's making it harder." I considered his words, mulling them over. He had a point. Every attempt we made to reignite our passion felt like a chore, an obligation. There was no spontaneity, no natural flow. It was as if we were following a script, hoping for a specific outcome that never materialized. "But what if it never comes back?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. "What if this is just who we are now? He reached across the table, taking both of my hands in his. His gaze was steady, unwavering. Then we figure out a way to make it work. Because I'm not giving up on us. His words brought a lump to my throat. I wanted to believe him, to share his optimism. But a part of me couldn't shake the nagging doubt that had taken root in my mind. What if we were clinging to something that was already lost? What if, in trying to save our relationship, we were only prolonging the inevitable? I love you, I whispered, my voice cracking with emotion. I don't want to lose you. You won't, he promised. We'll get through this. Together. Despite his reassurances, the uncertainty lingered. Could love truly be enough to sustain us without the intimacy that once defined our relationship? Or were we simply delaying the moment when we'd have to face the truth that some things, once lost, can never be fully regained? Lately, I've found my thoughts drifting to the idea of moving out, not permanently, but just to have my own space again. It wasn't something I ever imagined I'd want after we decided to live together. In fact, I remember how excited I was when we first moved in. I loved the idea of building a home with him, of sharing the little moments that make up daily life, the meals, the laughter, even the mundane tasks like folding laundry together or grocery shopping on lazy Sunday mornings. It felt right at the time. It felt like the next step in our relationship. But now, I catch myself longing for distance. I miss the feeling of missing him. It sounds strange, almost counterintuitive, but I crave that sense of anticipation, the butterflies in my stomach when I'd get a text from him asking to meet up, the excitement of seeing him after a few days apart. Back then, every moment we spent together felt special, charged with an energy that seems to have faded over time. Now, our interactions feel predictable, familiar in a way that's comforting but also a little suffocating. I've started to wonder if too much togetherness is what's stalling the spark between us. We live together, we eat together, we wind down at the end of each day watching TV or talking about our routines. And while there's comfort in that, there's also a certain sameness to it. The predictability that once felt like stability now feels like monotony. I can almost anticipate his reactions before he says a word. I know his habits, his routines, his quirks, and while I still love those things about him, I miss the sense of discovery, the excitement of learning something new about the person you are with. I've always been an independent person. I thrived on having my own space, my own time to think and reflect. Even when we first started dating, I valued our time apart as much as our time together. It gave me the chance to recharge, to miss him, to come back to him with stories to share and a renewed appreciation for his presence in my life. He was the same way before we met. He had his own life, his own routines, and his own ways of unwinding after a long day. We both found joy in our independence, and I think that's part of what drew us to each other in the first place. We weren't looking for someone to complete us, we were already complete on our own. Instead, we sought a partner to share in our completeness, someone to enhance our lives without taking away from who we were as individuals. But somewhere along the way, that balance shifted. Living together changed things in ways I hadn't anticipated. It blurred the lines between independence and partnership, leaving me feeling like I've lost a part of myself. The little rituals that once brought me peace, like spending an evening alone with a good book or going for a walk to clear my mind, have become less frequent. Instead, our evenings follow a familiar pattern. We cook dinner, we watch TV, we talk about our day, and we go to bed. Rinse and repeat. It's not that I don't enjoy those moments. I do. There's a comfort in the familiarity, in knowing that at the end of a long day, he'll be there waiting for me. But comfort isn't the same as excitement. And it's the excitement that I miss. I've started to wonder if maybe we need time apart to rekindle that feeling. Maybe if I had my own place, I'd miss him more. Maybe the time apart would make our time together feel more special, more intentional. I miss the way I used to look forward to seeing him, the way my heart would race when I knew we had plans. Now, it all feels like a given, predictable, expected. There's something magical about rediscovery, It's the feeling of seeing someone with fresh eyes, noticing little details you hadn't appreciated before. I want that back. I want to look at him and feel my heart skip a beat, to be reminded of why I fell in love with him in the first place. But how do you rediscover someone when you see them every day, when your lives are so intertwined that there's little left to uncover? I've tried to push these thoughts aside, telling myself that it's normal for relationships to change over time. The honeymoon phase doesn't last forever, after all. But there's a difference between the natural evolution of a relationship and the feeling of being stuck in a rut. And I can't shake the sense that we're in the latter. Even when we do things apart, spending time with friends or pursuing our individual hobbies, it doesn't feel like enough. We've always made an effort to maintain our independence within the relationship, but the routine of living together still feels stifling at times. It's as though we've become too comfortable, too settled. And while that might work for some couples, it leaves me yearning for more. I keep thinking back to the early days of our relationship, when every interaction felt like an adventure. We'd share stories from our separate lives, laughing at each other's experiences and learning more about each other with every conversation. Now, those stories feel fewer and farther between. We already know so much about each other's lives that there's little left to surprise us. It's not that we've stopped trying. We still make an effort to do new things together, to travel, to explore, to keep our relationship fresh. But no matter how much we try to shake things up, it always feels like we're falling back into the same routine once we return home. I've read that long-term relationships require effort to maintain the spark. People talk about date nights, surprises, and finding ways to keep the romance alive. And we've tried all of that. But it feels like we're putting band-aids on a deeper issue, one that goes beyond surface-level fixes. Maybe the problem isn't what we're doing, but the fact that we're always doing it together. Maybe the key to reigniting that spark is to create space to give ourselves the chance to miss each other, to crave each other's company again. But how do I bring that up without hurting him? How do I tell him that I need space without making it sound like I'm pulling away? It's a delicate balance, and one that I'm not sure how to navigate. On one hand, I love the life we've built together. I love the stability, the partnership, the shared moments of joy. But on the other hand, I can't ignore the nagging feeling that something is missing, that we've lost the excitement that made our relationship feel so special in the first place. I've started to wonder if it's possible to have both stability and excitement, comfort and passion. Can we find a way to bring back that sense of newness without sacrificing the life we've built together? Or is this just the natural progression of a long-term relationship, a shift from fiery passion to steady companionship? I don't have the answers yet. But I know that I can't keep ignoring these feelings. Something has to change. And as much as it scares me, I think it's time to have that conversation, to talk about what we both want, what we both need, and how we can find our way back to each other. Because despite everything, I'm not ready to give up on us. I still believe in what we have. I just need to find a way to make it feel new again. There's something deeply unsettling about admitting the things that linger in the corners of my mind, the thoughts I push away, the feelings I try to suppress. But they're there, persistent and unwelcome. And the more I try to deny them, the louder they become. The hardest truth to face is that I've started to fantasize about being with other men. It's not something I'm proud of. In fact, it makes me feel guilty, disloyal, even. It's not about wanting to cheat or replace my boyfriend with someone else. I love him. I care about him deeply. But there's a part of me that misses that feeling of excitement, of discovery, of being desired by someone new. That rush of adrenaline, the spark of something unfamiliar, the anticipation of a first touch, all of it feels like a distant memory now. These fantasies aren't about any specific person. They're more about the idea of feeling alive again, of breaking free from the monotony that has settled into our relationship. I catch myself wondering what it would be like to feel that pull again, to crave someone's touch, to be consumed by passion the way I once was. And then the guilt sets in, because how could I think this way about anyone else when I have a partner who loves me, who supports me, who has never once made me feel unwanted. I know what I'm feeling isn't unique. I've read enough articles and listened to enough stories from friends to know that many people in long-term relationships experience this kind of restlessness. But knowing that doesn't make it any easier to deal with. It doesn't make me feel any less ashamed of the fact that my mind occasionally drifts to places it shouldn't. Still, I can't help but wonder if these thoughts are a symptom of something deeper. Maybe it's not about wanting someone else, but about wanting a part of myself back, the part that felt spontaneous, passionate, and free. The part that wasn't weighed down by routines and responsibilities, by the quiet comfort of familiarity that has slowly taken over my life. But I know myself well enough to understand that chasing excitement for the sake of it is a dangerous game. I've built a good life with my boyfriend, a life filled with love, stability, and shared dreams. Throwing that away for the fleeting thrill of something new would be foolish. And deep down, I know that no other relationship would remain exciting forever. The novelty always wears off. The spark always dims. Every relationship, no matter how passionate in the beginning, eventually settles into something more routine. So why do I feel like I'm stuck at a crossroads? Maybe part of me wants him to be the one to walk away. Maybe I feel like I'm not giving him everything he deserves, and I'm subconsciously hoping he'll be the one to end things so that I don't have to carry the weight of that decision. It's a cruel thought, and I hate that it's crossed my mind. But it's there. I can't deny that I feel lucky to have him. He's kind, patient, and understanding. He never makes me feel pressured or inadequate. He listens when I open up about my struggles, and he reassures me that our relationship is about more than just physical intimacy. He believes in us, in what we've built together. And for that, I'm grateful. But at the same time, I can't ignore the restlessness inside me, the longing for something more, the desire to feel that spark again. I miss the way we used to be, the way we couldn't keep our hands off each other, the way every touch felt electric. And as much as I try to rekindle that fire, it always feels forced, like we're going through the motions without truly feeling the passion we once shared. I know the anxiety and depression medication I take has a role to play in this. It's well documented that these medications can lower libido, and I've noticed the change in myself since I started taking them. There are days when I wonder if it's all in my head, if my lack of desire is purely a side effect of the medication, something beyond my control. But that thought doesn't make it any easier to cope with. The truth is, I don't want to lose him. I don't want to throw away what we've built together. But I also don't want to keep living with this nagging feeling that something is missing, that we've lost a vital part of our relationship and don't know how to get it back. So what do we do now? I've considered moving out, not as a breakup, but as a way to give ourselves some space. I've thought about what it would be like to have my own place again, to miss him, to crave his presence in a way I haven't felt in a long time. I wonder if that distance would make our time together feel more special, more intentional. Maybe it would give us both the chance to reconnect with ourselves as individuals, to bring something new back to the relationship when we come together again. But the idea of moving out also terrifies me. What if it backfires? What if the distance only drives us further apart? What if I realize that I'm happier on my own, and what if he does too? I've searched for advice, hoping to find stories of other couples who have gone through this and come out stronger on the other side. But everyone's situation is different, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Some couples find that taking a break reignites their passion. Others realize that they've simply outgrown each other. And the thought of either outcome scares me. I want to believe that we can find our way back to each other, that the love we share is strong enough to overcome this hurdle. But I also know that love alone isn't always enough. Relationships require effort, growth, and a willingness to adapt to the changes that life throws our way. And right now, I'm not sure what that looks like for us. Would moving out be the solution? Or would it be the beginning of the end? Would trying new things, different forms of intimacy, new experiences, or even changing the way we communicate help us find that spark again? Or are we simply chasing something that can't be recaptured? I don't have the answers. But I know one thing for certain, I'm not ready to give up on us. Not yet. Maybe the solution isn't in grand gestures or drastic changes. Maybe it's in the small, everyday moments, the way we look at each other, the way we listen, the way we show up for each other even when things aren't perfect. Maybe it's about finding joy in the ordinary, in the quiet comfort of a life shared with someone you love. I've thought about asking him to try something new with me, something outside of our usual routines. Maybe a dance class, or a weekend getaway with no plans or expectations. Maybe we need to shake things up, to step out of our comfort zone and rediscover the parts of ourselves that got lost along the way. Or maybe it's about accepting that relationships evolve, and that love looks different over time. Maybe passion isn't something that's always burning brightly. Maybe it's a flame that flickers, sometimes fading, but always capable of being reignited if both people are willing to tend to it. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know that I love him. And I want to find my way back to that place where we both feel excited, connected, and deeply in love. So for now, I'll keep trying. I'll keep showing up, keep searching for that spark, and keep believing that we can find it again. Because this life we've built together, this love we share, is worth fighting for. Even when it's hard. Even when it's uncertain. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the real excitement lies, in the journey of finding each other again, over and over, through all the seasons of love.